Welcome to The Herbal Ire, your podcast on all things holistic health, medical astrology, spirituality, herbalism, and so much more. Presented by your host, Ire Atla, medical astrologist, herbalist, and naturopath. Let's dive right into today's topic, love and light. Hi everyone, and welcome back to The Herbal Ire. I'm your host, Ire Atla, and we are continuing our Medical Astrology 101 series, moving into the 6th sign. So this is part 6 of the 12-part series. And today we are talking about Virgo. Virgo is I feel a pretty good sign. It's a little misunderstood. I do have many friends that are Virgos, and one of my children is a Virgo, so I feel like I understand them pretty well. So I'm excited to get into this today and hope that you can understand them better too. So it's a really down to earth kind of sign, being an earth sign, that makes sense. And so yeah, I really want to talk about it, and let's dive in and see what Virgo is actually all about. So obviously we're talking about Virgo. The glyph for Virgo, it looks like an M with like a curve coming off the right hand side that kind of goes up, makes a point, and comes back down and kind of bends out a little bit and then goes back into the M. So it's like an M with a curve coming off the side. Some people say it's supposed to look like a sheaf of wheat. Some say it looks like a fish. I mean, technically, I think it's supposed to look like a sheaf of wheat since Virgo is associated with that type of stuff. But either way, it's hard to describe on an audio podcast, so you can Google it. If you are a visual person, need to see exactly what it looks like, because my descriptions of it, I'm sure, are lacking. So Virgos are born between August 21st and September 20th. And they are represented, the sign is represented by the Virgin, who is often seen holding like a sheaf of wheat. Hence the glyph for Virgo appearing to be like an M with a sheaf of wheat coming off the side. That is a tongue twister. This sign rules the harvest season. So late August to late September tends to be one of the last harvest seasons for many types of crops, especially wheat. And so because of that, this is kind of the sign of the harvest season, right? Which also can mean that you are at this time in your life reaping what you have sowed, noticing the cause and effect in your relationships. So things that you've done earlier in the year are starting to become manifest at this time of year, or even earlier years. And let me tell you, I know this is true because I put in back in January at one point of one year about something that I wanted, and I noticed that it came true, and I manifested it right come August, September time. Same with my relationship with my husband, etc., etc. So this is a good time of year to see all of that hard work that you've been putting in all year, or even couple of years, more than one or two as well, really coming into fruition and into being. The Virgin is a symbol of purity and being untainted, which really means that Virgo is a state of perfection and balance, right? Many Virgos definitely strive for that often unattainable quality of perfection, everything being perfect. Hang on one second. All right, if it's not perfect, right, they have a hard time moving forward. So that earth quality in them, though, keeps them stuck sometimes in a vicious cycle of needing something to be just so before they will move on to anything else. Because of this, you can see a lot of Virgos tend toward OCD. They tend to be a little perfectionistic. They can be a little hard on themselves and others if they don't feel like that person or themselves have done, the standard of what they're expecting or what they see in their mind's eye of what it's supposed to look like. If it doesn't look like that, they can get frustrated and upset. Sometimes they say things they don't mean. And that we will talk about more when we get to the low expression, high expression of Virgo. but that earth quality in them definitely can keep them stuck sometimes in a place that is a never-ending cycle of redoing everything because it's not reached that perfectionist state that they're wanting, right? The key word with this sign is I analyze. So if you have any Virgos in your life or you are a native Virgo, so sun, moon, rising, you may notice that like you really tend to be very logical and analytical in your nature, right? In Leo, we saw like the egoic self, right? When we talked about in the last um, part 5 of this series, we noticed that Leo was like the egoic self and how we act in the world was being established with that sign. Virgo is the end of the first 6 signs that are all about like our outer selves and like how we really interact with everybody else, whereas the last 6 are like more like the inner self. And so Virgo's kind of on that cusp, right, of right when things are changing, and it's a mutable sign. So that's a good place for it to be. So it's right when we're on the cusp of switching from that in external world to the internal world. So Virgo is like the analyzing of our actions in the world, right? So Leo's like the egoic self, how we act in the world. And then Virgo is us analyzing our actions that we've put out in the world and how those actions have helped, harmed other people, etc., etc. Virgos like to analyze and reflect what they are doing and whether or not it's in service to their higher good and the good of the collective. So they tend to be individuals that overanalyze and overthink sometimes because of this. They tend to be very myopic sometimes in how they view things. They're very focused on the details of the up close stuff, and they're so focused with like their blinders on, right, to that one like unattainable perfection that they're looking for that they sometimes miss the bigger picture. Um, and this is where if you are a native Virgo and you find yourself really like always focusing on the details and not seeing that bigger picture, to lean into your Pisces, which is your polar sign, right? Because Pisces is all about seeing the big picture. They have a hard time actually seeing the details. They're the ones who have all the fancy dreams of all the stuff they're going to accomplish, but they have no path on how to get there, right? Whereas Virgo has the path, but they have no idea what their destination looks like. And so working together with those signs will give you not only the big picture of where you want to go and that destination you want to make it to, right? But also the steps to get there. So the mode, which I kind of mentioned a minute ago, is mutable. Virgo is the first mutable earth sign that we've come to in the zodiac, which feels like a weird combination, right? Like earth is typically what we think of as like an immovable substance and an immovable quality in life. Like the earth itself, it rotates on its axis, sure, but like the actual earth, the dirt and the trees and all the stuff that's on the earth doesn't move very readily, right? It has to do some kind of catastrophe that like makes it move, a tornado, a hurricane, torrential downpours that lead to like mudslides and stuff, right? For the most part, the Earth is pretty stable. We don't think of it as being mutable like we do like Gemini, which is a mutable air sign, which is all over the place. We think of air being all over the place because we can feel air being one direction and then another direction, right? But we don't think of that with Earth. So it seems like a weird combination because Earth is stable and grounded and unmovable. But then you throw in that mutable energy and it can kind of put it into a tailspin sometimes. So, like I said, due to this, many Virgos get stuck in place with moving forward physically with things that they want to do, but their minds just continuously are racing and going, 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 and they have a hard time like settling down and being able to stick to like one thing or re- really like get that rest that they need, right? Because their minds are always going, going, going with the details. Obviously, the element is earth, and so because of this, Virgos tend to be very grounded individuals in many ways, uh, but also that can lead to some issues in the low expression and also can be great in the high expression. So we will get into that here as well. But Virgos are typically very practical, grounded, analytical, intelligent individuals. Y'all have, I don't know, you're like the scientists and the great minds of every century, right, tend to be like those Virgos, the ones that are like the physicists and the mathematicians and the things that involve a lot of attention to really crazy details to accomplish what they've set out to do. So we see that with a lot of Virgos. Um, the ruler is Mercury. If you recall, Mercury also rules Gemini. So this seems like, again, a weird rulership, right? So if you think about it, this is kind of like that duality of Mercury being shown in the signs that it rules. So Gemini is really like the day house of Mercury, right? And Virgo is like the night house, which means that both express Mercury's mutable energy in a completely different way and at a completely different wavelength than the other. In Gemini, Mercury is like, let's gather and disperse all the information we want to know. We want to pick it all up and we want to put it all out there for everybody else to know. Whereas Virgo wants to gather that information, but then it wants to learn how to practically apply that information in a way that serves and helps others, which is why you see so many like scientists and people like that that are Virgos becoming a lot of Virgos becoming scientists stuff because of that need to turn it into something practical that they can apply in a way that will help other people and the collective good. So you see a lot of healers as well in the zodiac and in the Virgo signs because they want to take all that information they've learned. Especially you'll see the healers with Virgo as their like sun, moon, or rising sign, who are really in tune with their polar sign, Pisces, and are able to access that intuitive, unseen realm that most Virgos would poo-poo at, right? They'd be like, that doesn't really exist. You can't prove it. There's no details to, no science to prove this stuff actually happens and exists, so it doesn't. And so you see a lot of Virgos that can be very much like that. They're very analytical. Since they can't analyze it, they want nothing to do with it. And then there's the other Virgos who have really embraced their polar sign, who are open and receptive to that unseen realm and their spirit guides and using their intuition as well as that practical side, and combining the two. Um, in Virgo, Mercury and Virgo just really they have to do something with the information that they learn, right? And this is thanks to Virgo being that earth sign. Earth signs are very much people that have to do something with whatever their sign rules. So like Taurus is, a fixed earth sign, and it really has to do stuff that helps it make like money, right? It likes to do anything that is making them feel like they're being of service, but they're making money while doing it. Virgo just wants to be of service and help people. And if they make money, great off of it. And if they don't, well, whatever. They'd rather be a pauper as long as everybody else is taken care of. So there can be a little bit of that, opposite quality there. And that's that mutable quality, right? And then you have Capricorn, which is the cardinal earth sign, which we'll be getting to down the road here. But it also needs to be of service and doing something, but it's more about like setting boundaries in your life and sticking to them and learning to like love yourself through like those boundaries, but doing something again with the information that it learns, which typically tends toward figuring out how to work with, within what it rules, which is the boundaries of the body. So Virgo itself rules liver, the spleen, the upper intestines, the bile ducts. Capricorn actually rules the gallbladder itself. It rules the pancreas with Libra to an extent. Libra technically doesn't rule the pancreas. It rules the islets of Langerhans, which secrete insulin, which is a hormone, and Libra rules the hormone balances of the body. So it tends to work more with the insulin and the islets of Langerhans and the actual pancreas. Virgo works with the actual pancreas and the digestive enzymes that it secretes. So, because Virgo has a lot to do with digestion overall. So Taurus rules officially the first part of digestion, which is the mouth and the stomach and going through the small intestines, whereas Scorpio rules the latter half of digestion and the colon and the rectum and the excretion of the waste products, right? But overall, Virgo has a hand in like the schematics and the details, right, of how digestion works and what's going on with it. And it co-rules the immune system with its polar sign, Pisces. So, and to an extent, it kind of also rules the nervous system a little bit. So, like Pisces really rules like the parasympathetic nervous system, which is, like the rest and digest, and they're really good at resting, let me tell you. When we get to Pisces, we'll talk all about that, but Pisces are good at resting. In fact, they're one of the sleepiest signs in the zodiac, and they tend to be very, very much people who enjoy their 12 plus hours of sleep a day, right? Whereas Virgo rules more of the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight nervous system. So it also rules the sixth house, which is the house of health, the house of service and improvement, which really aligns with having Virgo as the ruler. So again, I see a lot of Virgos that tend to be healers that work with nutrition in some way. So nutritionists, dietitians, functional medicine doctors, things like that, because of, again, that attention to detail that it requires to do that stuff. But it's also taking that information that they have learned, turn it into something practical, and helping others with that practical way of assimilating that information and using it, right? And so, again, it makes sense because it overall rules digestion. So a lot of the reason that you are or not getting the proper nutrients, no matter what your diet is like, right, is the fact that your digestion is working great or it's not. And so with Virgo having that hand in ruling digestion, like overall, it makes sense that we would see a lot of native Virgos that are nutritionists and dietitians or working in the health and wellness industry in some way. They're really good at it too, right? Like they have that attention to detail. They love to plan, making you a plan of action to get you from point A to point B where you see that big picture, right? They may not see that big picture that you want, but they know the steps to get you to that big picture that you want, and they are damn good at doing it. That's one of the best things about Virgos is their attention to detail. It can also be one of the most frustrating things about Virgo, depending on how you're looking at it. I tend to look at the positive, so I think it's an amazing quality of Virgos is that attention to detail. Like if you need something organized in your life, go find yourself a native Virgo. If you are a native Virgo, be very proud of that fact. There's a lot of people who could benefit from your attention to detail, and that might be a business opportunity there for you to start something that requires you to help other people who don't have such an attention of detail to get one or help them set up systems. I see a lot of VAs that are Virgos, native Virgos, because they're good at setting up systems and they're good at analyzing the data that they see that these companies need help with and ways to help them. So just some ideas if you are struggling in your job as a native Virgo. There are some ideas of things that you might be better suited to that you can switch into. So as far as the high expression and the high evolution of Virgo, as I mentioned, Virgos are highly intellectual, and that is really thanks to the Mercury governance, right? Because Geminis are the same way, and that's because they're ruled by Mercury, which is the ruler of, that kind of stuff, the intellect, the brain, the thinking, the communication part of like all of that stuff. So they're really, really highly intellectual individuals. They're practical and organized. Again, that's due to the earth quality. Like I said, if you need systems set up, get yourself a Virgo assistant. They are very meticulous. They can see details like no other sign in the zodiac. So they really possess like a sharpness to their intellect. It's not just them being smart, it's them being smart and able to pinpoint things. And they're really quick to come to those conclusions. And I see this in my youngest. He is very meticulous when it comes to things. He likes things to be in a certain way. Everything has to be the same all the time. But he's really fucking smart. I don't know, he can do all kinds of crazy stuff at his age that I don't think the rest of the family has ever or ever will like attain to at any age, much less at the young age that he is. So I really noticed this in him, that he is very quick and sharp and very meticulous, and he's great, absolutely fabulous. They are really able to see like the honest truth of what is happening when they're in their high expression, right? All the potential outcomes, how to remedy all those potential outcomes, and how to practically apply all of those remedies that they can see in a way that can seem intangible or like etheric to others, right? Like it seems really out there. Like, how'd you come up with that for, this problem over here? Because not most other people can't see all of those like minute details and what's going on and what's happening and what's going to happen. And Virgos can see that. So they're really good at like problem shooting, troubleshooting, coming up with solutions to things because of that ability to really see all of the steps and all of the outcomes of taking, step A instead of step B or taking step B instead of step C and figuring out. They're the people you want to plan like, a disaster, like what do you call it? Like a disaster plan if I don't know, like the office building you're in catches on fire. These are the people you want to plan, how the hell you get out of the building if it's on fire. Right? Because they'll be able to see all of the ways out of the building, how the best ways to get there. And if, route A is on fire and you can't go, then here's route B that you can head to and, all that way. They're really good at planning like that kind of stuff. So they're like the people you want planning your disaster, plans for any of your businesses. So again, another, business opportunity. Um, they see everything and like nothing escapes their gaze, internally as well as externally, which is why they are one of the healers of the zodiac, because of this unique ability to be able to see like internally to other people and externally. But unfortunately, this attention to details internally especially can lead to their low evolution expression as well and be part of their shadow side, right? Virgo, in its highest expression, though, is always striving to really improve their physical well being, their psychological and emotional health, their spiritual growth, and their work in this world. So they are always wanting to be the best that they can be in everything, which again, in their low expression, can lead to some problems, right? I mean, think about it. If you always want to be the best and you happen to not be the best in something, that can be very upsetting and discouraging, especially for the younger native Virgos, as children. It can be really hard for them to want to try new things because if they're not perfect at it right away, they can get really upset, pitch a fit, and, not want to go back because they didn't do it exactly right, on the first try. And we'll get into that in a minute. They're very capable of reflecting on their past, and then they use that information, right, to change the present and then the future of their life. So they're really good, again, at seeing all the details, analyzing what's happened, and then coming up with a plan to move forward. Virgo and Pisces work really well together as polar signs to help us bring about and practically apply like our spiritual truths and our in service to others, but also to help others in the good of the collective. So it's something that benefits the whole. Virgo really, really, really enjoys being able to do something that helps other people. They are a service-oriented sign and they do much better in a service-oriented role over one that they feel like they're stuck doing something that doesn't feel like it's helping the collective good, right? So in their high expression, like I said, you'll see them as healers, nutritionists, dietitians, scientists, VAs helping people get unstuck from where they are, things like that, things that are helping others, right? Now, in their low expression, the low evolution, it can lead to some problems and lead into the shadow self, right, of our Virgo natives. So when one is as highly self-aware as like Virgos are, it can sometimes lead to one seeing only their faults, right, and none of their gifts. And so you notice this especially with Virgo moons, but you will see it with all natives especially, but the Virgo moons tend to be more prone to it. So this is really the biggest downfall of Virgo, right? Is focusing only on the negative. And I know that y'all probably know or are a native Virgo that has noticed your tendency or their tendency to somehow be the Debbie Downer, the negative Nancy of every situation. And the ones that are really stuck in that low evolution, that low expression, definitely are 100% always the negative Nancys of every group, of everything that they say. They don't ever see the positive for anything. They are like the glass half empty people instead of the glass half full people, right? And they kind of use this ability to really kind of then only see their faults and focus on the negative to constantly harm themselves in a way, right? Where they're like, well, I'm here right now, but I really want to be over there. I should be over there. I see myself being over there instead. So why am I not? and they become highly self-critical in their minds, and in turn it really tears their minds apart, right? These are the individuals that we see with a lot of mental health problems, like depression and anxiety, and sometimes just really bad mental health problems that keep them from being able to interact with others, period, because they're just so caught up in their own minds that they don't really see or pay attention to anybody else, and they can't. So this is the biggest downfall. It's part of the shadow side of Virgo. So if you're a native Virgo and you find yourself that this is an issue where you find yourself falling back into these habits, we'll talk about it, but really learning to like lean into your Pisces and let go of shit that doesn't matter is really, really important as a Virgo. Find ways to change that mindset, find ways to, get that negative energy out of you. Um, because if it stays in there and it builds up, it's going to lead to mental health problems. It's going to end up leading to physical health problems, and it's going to lead to spiritual health problems, which all eventually lead to an early death, right? From all of the stuff compounding and building up. In their low expression, they can also be individuals that deal with suicidal thoughts quite often, just because they will often never be enough for anyone else or even for themselves. And so they tend to, again, fall into deep depressive states where they live in their own heads and stop interacting with people. And, eventually that can lead to, them ending their life early. And sometimes it can also lead to projection for many that are in their low expression, right? To become highly critical of others and see the faults in others and become nitpicky. They constantly point out others' faults, shortcomings, imperfections, etc. And well, that leads to Virgos destroying their relationships because there's not a lot of people that want to constantly put up with being nitpicked at about stuff that they can't help, stuff that they already know about themselves, but they're working on it, and feeling like no matter how many changes they make, they're never good enough for their partner, right? Eventually, people aren't going to want to be around for that anymore, and they're going to leave. And I know this is true 100% because my ex-husband is a Virgo. He's not dead, is a Virgo. And so, yeah, he was very much in his low expression at the time of our relationship. And he was very much like that, super nitpicky. I never could find anything but faults in me and imperfections. Nothing I did was ever good enough or going to be, no matter how many changes I made, it was still wrong. And let me tell you, living with somebody like that will kill your self-esteem. It'll wreck your relationship. It wrecks you emotionally as the person on the receiving end, and it really makes you fucking hate the person. Like, you're just like, go away, leave me alone. And it leads to, ultimately, whether they mean it or not, an emotionally and psychologically abusive relationship because they cannot focus on anything else but the negative in that person that they chose to be with. And so this is the biggest shadow side that I see with Virgo, is Virgos falling into this tendency, and then due to that earth quality, getting stuck there and not knowing how to get back out and just living there and ruining their lives, leading to very, very lonely lives for Virgos. And again, this tends to be individuals more with a Virgo moon who can get stuck here more than the other native Virgos, but it can happen for sun and rising signs as well. So again, this is not a guarantee, right? None of this stuff is a guarantee, but this is stuff to be aware of so that if you see it happening, you know that, hey, this is happening now. You can be aware of it and you can work towards changing it if that's not the life you want to live, right? In their low expression, they can tend to lose sight of the big picture, which can lead to overwhelm and mental stress because they feel like they need to do it all right this second because they can't see like that big picture and what's coming. All they can see are the steps in front of them, and so they just feel like they have to keep going on these steps because if they don't want to miss a step, they can't stop because they don't know how many more steps actually they have to get to that big picture, right? So that can lead to a lot of overwhelm. And of course, it has to be done perfectly too, right? So that leads to even more and a lot of mental stress and a lot of mental overwhelm. I see a lot of native Virgos that have been diagnosed with like ADHD, and I think a lot of times it's not necessarily that they have ADHD, and I'm not discounting that diagnosis. I'm just saying I think a lot of times native Virgos are misdiagnosed with that because they don't actually have ADHD. They just have that Virgo mutable earth quality, which wants to be perfect, and they overwhelm themselves from not being able to be perfect. And that can lead to burnout and mental stress and a lot of the same symptoms that ADHD presents with, right? And I see a lot of native Virgos who ADHD medication doesn't help, and this is why. It's not truly anything that the ADHD medications are going to be able to help, because it's more of a way of being and how they're presenting themselves and how hard they're being on themselves than it is an actual like disorder, right? So that's just, again, something I've noticed in my practice. I'm not saying anything about whether or not ADHD is, not true. It is, but in Virgos, I see a lot of times that this is what happens is they get misdiagnosed with ADHD. They don't actually have ADHD. They just have those Virgo tendencies, right? And they're in their low expressions. In their low expression as well, I noticed that a lot of them get stuck in rationality and find themselves lacking and sometimes just ignoring, like plain out ignoring the intuitive side of themselves. And this can also lead to some issues when they don't ever trust their gut. They just always want facts. And sometimes there's things in life that, like, we just don't have facts for. We don't have them yet. We may get them, but we don't have them yet. And so learning to trust that that little voice inside of your head is right, that gut feeling is true, and leaning into stuff that sometimes seems completely irrational is actually okay to do. It's, everything doesn't have to be logical and rational and analytical, right? It's okay to believe in something outside of yourself, something bigger than yourself, something out there that you can't quantify or make any sense from, but you know it to be true, right? It's okay for that sometimes. And I see a lot of native Virgos that struggle with this. And again, to correct this, you want to lean into your Pisces, because Pisces rules the unseen realm. It rules the intuition. It rules the spiritual side of an individual's life. Pisces are the most intuitive psychic signs in the zodiac. They see and know things that are not possible to be seen and known by rational standards, right? You can't analyze it. There's no numbers to pull from it. You can't get any data off of it, but it's true and it works, right? So leaning into that side, right, and learning that it's okay to sometimes not have data for things is okay. In their low expression, I also see that many native Virgos can be really strict and rigid in their beliefs and their methods, which can then manifest psychologically and physiologically as well. Again, because they are so rigid and it must be done just like this, that they get caught up in that and they're not willing to make changes, and sometimes they need to make a change, and refusing to make those changes leads to psychological disorders and mental health disorders and eventually physiological problems, right? Like actual, health problems in the body due to their inability to let go of things, which again is that earth quality, right? So learning to let go and just be is really huge for any native Virgos that are listening and feel like you are really like stuck in your low expression, right? You're listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, that's more me than I would like it to be. Then finding ways to relax. I see so many Virgos that most of their problems are caused from them just being so filled with tension, mental tension, digestive tension, physical tension somewhere in their body. They come to me with a lot of cramps and muscle issues and digestive issues that typically are just caused by everything being so tense and tight and caught up inside of them that it can't relax to do its job, right? And then it leads to, a lot of mental health issues too because of that tension and that inability to just like stop, let go, and, relax for 5 minutes. I find a lot of Virgos, native Virgos, have a really hard time, like, just sitting still and doing something that isn't going to have, like, a quantifiable outcome, right? Like, it's really hard for them to just like go to the beach and lay there in the sun and enjoy the breeze and the hot sand and the water, right? Because there's no quantifiable outcome from that. What are you going to gain from that, right? There's nothing to analyze. And so they have a really hard time doing that. But that's exactly what you need to do if you're going to stay healthy as a Virgo, right? You need to let go of shit that does not need to be held on to. You need to relax all that tension in your body. You need to calm your nervous system, which is constantly stuck in that fight and flight for a lot of native Virgos. And so a lot of the herbs that we see governed by Virgo are literally nervine relaxants that just work on your nervous system to relax it so that you can calm down enough and your body can relax enough that your health can improve, right? And that your brain stops racing so that you can move forward with what needs to be done and help you see that big picture. So top 3 herbs are blue vervain. This is a really great bitter remedy. It helps for restoring liver health, but it also works on the mind, helping to relax a mind that is overly tense, right? So if you feel like your brain is racing constantly and won't shut off, and you are a native Virgo who also is having digestive issues, blue vervain might be the herb for you. Angelica is another good one. It's another bitter remedy. All bitter remedies in herbalism work on the liver and the digestive system. So you can see that there's a lot of correspondence to that here in Virgos, and that's because so many of them have liver and digestive issues. It helps the liver and digestive systems to relax, which many Virgos definitely need due to your tendency of holding on to all of that like tension and stress inside of your bodies, right? And then there's agrimony, agrimony, some people call it, but relaxes tension in the nervous system. Again, definitely something that many native Virgos need. I also find that chamomile works really well for native Virgos too. It's not officially under the governance of Virgo, but it works on the digestive system. It helps with the liver to an extent. It relaxes the digestive system. It relaxes the nervous system, and it calms the mind. So it kind of is a great, all-in-one herb for everything that Virgos deal with. Common health concerns: gas, bloating, diverticulitis, colitis, liver diseases, diabetes, type 1 and type 2, food allergies, which are more common in Cancer, but with Virgo's tendency toward tension and some heat in the digestive system can also happen here. So that is, I see more food sensitivities than true allergies in Virgo. And that's mainly because of the fact that, they're just holding on to so much tension, their bodies can't relax and they can't digest things properly, and things start irritating their gut walls. And so I find a lot of times when they work on relaxing their gut, they work on healing their gut, that all those food, sensitivities and go away. So something to keep in mind. And they have a tendency toward diabetes because a lot of Virgos, native Virgos, tend toward like a sweet tooth. And with that governance, right, that association with wheat, they tend to love their carbs as well. So they definitely can tend to overdo it on carbs and overdo it on the sweets and the sugar intake sometimes, which is more of a tendency toward type 2 diabetes than type 1 is an autoimmune issue, which also, ironically, Virgos tend toward a lot of autoimmune issues thanks to their co-ruling of the immune system, and they rule the side of the immune system that tends to be more overactive. And so with all that tension and stress they hold on into their bodies, they cause dysregulation in places, which then leads to, again, malnourishment because they have so much tension, they're not digesting their nutrients properly. Malnourishment leads to chronic health issues, which eventually, if not treated and repaired, leads to autoimmune disorders as your body starts turning against itself in a last-ditch effort to fix what's wrong. And in this case of type 1 diabetes, it kills the it kills the islets of Langerhans, which then means your body stops producing insulin, and well, that leads to, as anybody who has diabetes or a loved one with diabetes knows, a whole host of health problems. Okay, so what can we do, right, holistically to help prevent and treat any health issues that you might run up against as a Native Virgo? First and foremost, always, 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 always tend to your diet. And this does not mean flip-flopping from one fad diet to another, which is a Virgo tendency, or rigidly sticking to one way of eating forever, another Virgo tendency. It really just means attuning your mind, to your body. So combining that Mercury and that Earth, right? Because Mercury is the mind and Earth is the body. Combining those two together and really learning how your specific body is cosmically designed to function, and then tending to your body's specific needs. So this really requires actually leaning into your Pisces, right? And learning to just sit and be and listen to your body, even if it doesn't make rational sense what you're hearing. So it takes a little intuition and a little bit of, irrational thinking to get to what is going on and what your body truly needs. If you want to skip that phase, I know many Virgos would like to skip that phase. I don't recommend it, but if you want a shortcut, medical astrology readings with me go into a huge astro nutrition section and explain how your body is specifically designed to work and which nutrients your body needs more of and how to get those. I also find that a lot of Virgos tend toward low-fat diets for some reason. I see so many of them, and let me tell you, that is not good for your body. Your body needs fat for a lot of different things, one of which is brain function, proper brain health, which is why I tend to see so many Virgos with mental health disorders and issues, because their brains are chronically dehydrated because they don't drink enough water, and they're chronically dehydrated from lack of fat in their diet. Your brain's like a big ball of fat that's suspended in water, so it needs both. And if you're on a chronically low fat diet, this leads to brain fog, it leads to memory issues, it leads to Alzheimer's and dementia, because your brain cannot function properly without proper amounts of fats in your diet. And now these are what we consider the, better for you fats. So like avocados, coconuts, coconut oil, avocado oil, olives, olive oils, nuts, seeds, nut butters, seed butters, all of that kind of stuff that gives you those good healthy fats for your body that your body needs, and it needs a lot of. So definitely tending to your diet, figuring out what your body needs to function at its best. Obviously, if you're noticing that some foods are interrupting how you feel, making you feel bad, causing bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, anything like that, go get checked for food allergies or sensitivities, and then avoid those foods while you're working on healing your gut. Now, if it's a true food allergy, it's up to you if you ever, under a doctor's supervision, want to attempt to integrate those foods into your diet again. Sensitivities can sometimes be, something that you can definitely add back in down the road as your gut heals. But again, listen to your body and decide what works best for you. None of this is medical advice. It is just literally things that I have seen and recommendations. Obviously, the next step would be to work on healing that gut, right? Many Virgos tend toward leaky guts, and they really, really need to work on repairing their gut after antibiotic use of any sort, even herbal, what we consider herbal antibiotics. Or if you're just discovering that you have like food allergies. Food allergies and food sensitivities are almost always caused by leaky guts of some sort, something going wrong in the gut and causing health issues. So work on repairing it. It can be done through spore probiotics, fermented foods and drinks, and honestly, drinking meadow sweet tea multiple times a day for the indefinite future until you feel like, things are improving and getting better. And then you can stop the meadow sweet tea, but keep on with the probiotics and the fermented foods and drinks, because everybody needs those. Virgos just tend to need more. And remember to be gentle with yourself, right? When you notice a tendency to be too self-critical cropping up, stop. Just stop. Remind yourself that perfection, while a great goal, is impractical, and it's okay to just be whoever you are in that moment. You don't need to achieve some, self-image that you feel is better than the one that you currently are. You are perfectly designed just the way you are. There is a reason that you are who you are, and it's okay. And it's okay to be whoever you are in this moment, mistakes and all. Because I know a lot of Virgos get really down on themselves if they make a mistake. You're human, you're going to make a mistake. It's okay. Magnesium and potassium supplements or in large quantity in your diet are important for Virgos here, as well as the fat soluble vitamins, but I see a lot of issues with low magnesium and potassium, which leads to constipation and dysregulated digestive system, because you need magnesium and potassium for your digestive system to be regulated and work properly. Magnesium helps it to relax. So if you notice that as you're a native Virgo who's constantly constipated, it's probably because you don't have enough magnesium and your bowels are too uptight and things can't move through, right? So magnesium and potassium are really great here to make sure you're getting in your diet. And cell salts can actually be a really great way to get those without having to take, a ton of pills. I notice a Virgo tendency as well when trying to get better of taking way too many supplements and pills and herbs, and they throw everything at their body, which deregulates their nervous system even more and then leads to more problems because they're overwhelming their nervous system with too many changes at once. So one thing at a time. Try magnesium and potassium for like a month or two before you add anything else. You don't need to go all out on everything. Less is more when you're a Virgo. Daily movement is super important here for you as well, because that also keeps things regulated. It calms your nervous system, it relaxes tension in your body and your mind, and it helps regulate all the body systems, right? So again, it's very important to get some sort of daily movement. But again, remember, you do not have to be perfect at something to start or continue it. If you suck at it the first time, that's okay. Everybody sucks at it the first time. It's normal. You don't have to be an expert on your first try. Nobody has been an expert on their first try at anything. And if they tell you they were, they're lying to you. They're probably also a native Virgo who's in their low expression. So stick it out, and you will notice a huge, huge, huge difference in your life and your mental health, especially if you continue, no matter how sucky you are at it, right? Just, it's okay to suck. It is. I tell you, I've sucked at so many things and continued on. And then before you know it, I was so much better at it that I was able to then, help others do the same thing. And you can get there too. You don't have to be perfect right off the bat. Meditation and breath work are super important here for you to add in and incorporate into your life regularly. Meditation helps you learn how to regulate your thoughts better and calm your mind, and remember that it's okay to not have to be constantly on the go. Sitting and just being is good for you. And I notice a lot of native Virgos tend to lean into that Gemini side of Mercury, and they don't breathe properly, which then leads to other health problems. Without proper breathing, we have a lot of health problems that can come from that. Proper breathing is inhaling and exhaling through your nose with your mouth shut, your tongue pressed up against the roof of your mouth and up against the back of your top teeth, and breathing in through your nose, out through your nose, and breathing deeply. A lot of them tend towards shallow breathing, and that doesn't help either. Your body needs nice deep breaths. So learning to do breath work is actually really important as well. Journaling, get those repetitive thoughts out of your head. They will continue to torment you if you just let them stay there and take up space, right? They are taking up rent-free space in your brain that you could you could put something else there that actually matters to you and not those thoughts that are driving you crazy, right? Write them down. It is proven that if you write those thoughts down, a lot of times they will start being less and less and eventually go away. Now, of course, this also is paired with the fact that you're Also taking care of your brain and nourishing it as well. You can't stay in a dehydrated, malnourished state and expect just the journaling alone to do anything. But journaling is effective for many, 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 many people of getting those thoughts that are constantly driving you crazy out of your head. So try it. Just get them out. And then I find personally that sometimes getting them out and then burning them, I don't know, there's like a final act to like destroying it that really helps for myself and many others. So just a thought. Overall, though, what I really know is Virgo is a great sign to have in your top 3 because it really brings order to disorder and it brings the ability to see the details like nothing else. And just have to remember not to get stuck in those details and being too perfectionistic. Lean into the broader view that Pisces gives you as your polar sign, and that'll help bring that broader view to life, right? Which will then help you relax a bit, and life will just get so much better than it already is. And also, being of service will make you happy. If you feel depressed or anxious, a lot of times that can be, as a native Virgo, a sign that you are not living a life of service that makes you happy. So find something that makes you happy and do that. Live the life that you want and how you're cosmically designed. Tend to your diet, take care of your health through exercise and daily movement. Make sure that you're not overkilling it with doing too many things at once. And remember, you don't have to be an expert at everything at the first go. It's okay to suck. And then you'll get better at it eventually if you continue on. So I hope you enjoyed this today. I hope it helped. If you haven't already, this series corresponds with my new book, Your Sun Sign and Your Health. So if you haven't downloaded it already, go to the show notes and download your copy so you can keep on hand all of these suggestions for Virgo and any other sign, because you really are all the sun signs, right? You have every single sign in your chart. You just don't have planets in all of them. But that doesn't mean that those signs don't also affect your life. So get that book today, get that figured out so you can help yourself start helping your body in a holistic, cosmically designed way. If you want a medical astrology reading because you're listening to these and you're like, well, there is a lot going on and this is a lot and I don't feel confident in doing it on my own, which is completely understandable. It is a lot of stuff. I will put the link in the show notes. Come sign up for one. I offer packages as well. So there's just standalone readings where you get a protocol and you kind of DIY it. If that's your thing, great. If that's not your thing, then I offer packages where you get the reading, a protocol. In one of the packages, you get follow-up appointments with me where we discuss things and we help you work through all the issues and really come up with a plan and solidify it and get you feeling better. And you get a discount on any herbal preparations that I offer. The other package, you get follow-ups as well as the medical astrology reading. You get the protocol, and then you also get all of the herbal preparations included in the price for the first 3 months of your plan. So I would be super happy to help you with any of this to figure out what's going on, how your body is cosmically designed, your cosmic blueprint, your astro nutrition, and how to get you feeling better. So please, if that's something you're interested in, please come sign up so that we can get started as soon as possible. My schedule is really starting to fill up, so it's imperative to get in there as soon as possible so that you don't have to wait a lot longer than you would like to. Join me on Instagram at TwinRavenNaturals. Follow me on Threads as well at the same name, at TwinRavenNaturals. And again, I am looking for people who have worked with me to come be on my podcast. If you go to the podcasters at spotify.com/pod/show/the-herbal-ire. I'll put that link in the show notes as well. You can go to my profile page for my podcast, which will show a link that says leave a message, and you can leave a voice message. So you can go on there and you can leave a voice message all about what it was like to work together with me, leave your name if you would like, leave what service you got, and leave why or why not you would work with me again. And if you would recommend people, and then anything else that you want to add that just sounds good. It doesn't need to be more than 5 to 10 minutes in length. You leave that, and then I will just upload it to the podcast episode that I'm hoping to get out come like the end of September. So if that sounds like something you would like to do, the link will be in the show notes to go sign up for that. And I would love to see you guys there and have you on my podcast. I think that's everything for now. So I will talk to you guys next time. Love and light. That's it for another great episode of The Herbal Ire. Tune in next week for more valuable content with your host, Ire Atla.